Happy Wednesday! It's time for our weekly card class, and today we're going to be doing some sponge daubing and some split embossing techniques, all kinds of fun. And so we are using the Happy Hibiscus stamp set. So we've got these beautiful stamps. It's got a matching die set and a embossing folder. So this is a 3D hybrid embossing folder. So not only will it emboss great detail on our paper, but it will actually die cut at the same time. There's some great sentiment banners in here and some extra floral dies as well. So here's the card we're gonna make today. And so if you notice, we've got some dry embossing on the top and some dry embossing on the bottom. Cute sentiment, you make me smile. And then we've got our hibiscus flower that we've popped up on dimensionals, and we have sponge. So I'm gonna show you how to do that. Then of course we have our inside piece that is stamped and sponged as well. So let's get started with our card class today. So the first thing I'm gonna do is bring in some parts and pieces. If you need any of our measurements, the full supply list, or the step-by-step instructions, if you're part of my email list, my buzz bulletin, you will get a weekly email from me for free with a free printable PDF. It's just my gift to you for supporting me, for choosing me as your demonstrator, and for sharing and liking my videos and all the things. So let's get started. We've got some Melon Mambo here. This is going to be our card base. So I've just scored it, cut it. We're just going to take our bone folder and go ahead and burnish that, and we'll set that to the side. So the first thing I'm going to show you, this is a scrap piece of basic white, and I've got my embossing folder here. You can see that it's those beautiful hibiscus flowers. And let me grab my die set here. And we are going to use this die. So you can actually stamp this as one of the stamps in here. These three are connected, and so you can stamp them and then die cut them. But if you'd like them to be also embossed, you can do that at the same time. So if we open up our embossing folder here, we're going to line this up. Let me flip this around. And there we go. So you will see that we have, let me put my paper so you can see it a little better. The three line up in the embossing folder, and you kind of can get them to, they don't snap in, but they do kind of go into the groove there. And we're just gonna take our scrap piece of white paper, and I just like to hold it with my hands here, the die, so that I know it's lined up. And then I'll put my paper right behind it and close it up. So I'm just kind of holding that all there. You can see how that's gonna cut and emboss this at the same time. So let me bring in my big stamp and cut and emboss machine here. We're gonna put our sandwich together there. So we've got our paper, our die, our folder, and then we've got our plate number 4. So we're just gonna run this right through. There we go. And all the pops are normal with our machine, right? So then we've got it here. We're just gonna take our embossing folder right out, set that to the side. And now we'll take this out, and look what is so fun. So it's not only die cut, so we've got all three of our pieces here, but they are embossed as well. So you don't even need to stamp these. You can use them just as is. They're so beautiful. And then you can see that it would emboss the rest of it. You could use this as a stencil. I mean, so many things, right? Okay, so we have one part done. Now let's work on the card front. So in our example here, you can see, let me get close, where it is embossed here, and then there's this great line here, and then it's embossed at the bottom. And so how I did that was I just took my paper And we're just gonna stick it in our embossing folder, however you like it. So I just kind of look at the flowers and how I want them to be lined up, and then I'll just bring my machine right back in here. Same platforms, number 1 and 4. So we're just going to line that up. We're gonna put our plate number 4 on top, run that through, easy. Pull it out the other side. We're gonna lift our paper, and now we're going to leave a space. So however big your sentiment is, you can see it's just done at the top there and not at the bottom. And so then we're just gonna do the same thing. We're gonna leave a space. This time we're just gonna do on the bottom. And so each time you do this, it's gonna be a little bit different, right? Because if you get a different spot on that embossing folder, then we'll just run that right through. And then all of our embossing is done. So we'll just pull that right out. Take that out, and then you can see we've got our piece of paper here. We've got our embossing, then we've got a blank area, and then we've got our embossing again. And so you can see it's all raised up and beautiful. So now we're gonna stamp our sentiment. So for this one I did You Make Me Smile, and we're gonna use some Melon Mambo ink. So we'll just ink this up, and then that space that we did not emboss on is going to give us the perfect area to stamp our sentiment in. So it just leaves that space. You can see it's raised up here, and then flat in the middle so that we can stamp our sentiment, right? So we'll bring our base here, and we're just going to center this piece. We'll add some adhesive. This is simple, quick, but wowie, right? I mean, you could just leave it exactly like this and you would have a beautiful card, just like so. So there, we just added that. So we're gonna set this to the side, and now we're going to work on some sponging. So you can see in our card here, I sponged this hibiscus. And so these are those hibiscus that we die cut from those 3 in the embossing folder. That's all I did was some basic white. So let me bring in some scrap paper here, and I'm gonna bring in a couple of colors. We've got the same Melon Mambo that we used earlier, and I've got my Melon Mambo sponge dauber. We've got some Daffodil Delight, and we've got some Flirty Flamingo. So those are the 3 colors that I'm using today, along with their sponge daubers. So let's do this big one, and we're gonna do it, we're just gonna recreate this one here. So I like to go from light to dark. So I'm gonna take my sponge dauber. And just a side note, our sponge daubers come in a cute pack of 5, just like that. And I like to put the color of each one on them. And then everybody always asks how I keep mine stored. And so a quick organizational tip here is I have a few of these trays, and they're lipstick trays from Amazon. And so they work perfectly. I just cut a little scrap, and then I just put each one in there so it's labeled with the color, and then I can see the color on a little smush of the sponge dauber. So that's a little organizational tip for today. So we're gonna start in the middle here with our hibiscus. And so all I'm doing is I just sponged a little bit of that. Let me see if I can zoom this in a bit so that you can really see here what I'm doing. All right, so we've got our hibiscus flower there. We've added our Daffodil Delight. And now we're going to go to our next color, which is the Flirty Flamingo. So I've got my Flirty Flamingo sponge dauber. I'm just gonna get a little ink on it from the ink pad. And then I'm just gonna sponge it kind of around the middle area. And the lighter you sponge, the lighter it'll be. The darker you sponge, the darker it'll be. So then I'm gonna take some Melon Mambo, and I like to start on the outside because this is gonna be where our darkest is. And we're just gonna go around that outer edge here, just kind of lightly sponging with Melon Mambo. And then we're just gonna get a little bit lighter of a touch. So I'm not pressing too hard, and we'll just fill in that area there. And then what I like to do, just to give it kind of a nice outline, is with this darker color, the Melon Mambo, I'm just gonna sponge the edges just to kind of give it almost like a little border, right? Okay, so we've got our border. See how that darkened up the border there? And now I like to take, it's gonna dry a bit lighter than we have it here, but then I like to take a little bit of my Flirty Flamingo and kind of go a little bit back over this. So it kind of blends the Melon Mambo and the Flirty Flamingo back together. I do like to see a little bit of that white there. You can also take a tiny bit of the Daffodil Delight if you want to add a little bit to the middle of that. And then once it dries, it's going to get a little bit lighter. There we have our beautiful hibiscus. And you can see when it dries, see, it just gets a tad bit lighter. So isn't that beautiful? You know, hibiscus, I Googled it to find out all the different colors, and they do come in many colors. So I wanted to show you, I played with this a bit, and so I did one, so here's the one we just did, and then I did a yellow on the outside with the, you know, I just kind of flip-flopped those colors so that they were opposite. I did a Flirty Flamingo of the smaller one, so that's Flirty Flamingo. We've got our same Melon Mambo in the middle of this one, and then our Daffodil Delight kind of in the center there. And then I've got another Daffodil Delight one with some Flirty Flamingo in the center. So lots of options for these. You can have purple ones, I mean, all the colors, right? So many fun options for those hibiscus. So we'll use this one. You'll have to tell me in the comments, what is your favorite color hibiscus? All right, so now let's move this to the side. We're done with that for now, and let's stamp the inside of our card. So bring back in our grid paper here. And so for the inside, you can see I used this stamp. So this is the smaller stamp of the hibiscus. And so I did this a couple of ways, but I'm gonna show you the one that I like the best, which is this Melon Mambo hibiscus. So I just inked it up in the Melon Mambo, and then I stamped it down. But you can see mine looks very different, right? So now we're gonna take our same sponging. I'm gonna get some Flirty Flamingo here on my sponge dauber, and I'm just gonna go around kind of that center. So I'm just filling it in a bit. Then I'm gonna take a bit of Daffodil Delight into the center. And remember, it'll dry a little bit lighter. And then I'm gonna take some Melon Mambo, just like we did on our big one. And I'm gonna go around the edges, and I'm kind of going slightly out so that it gets a little bit of that sponging effect kind of around it. So it kind of comes off of that hibiscus flower, right? And then I'll just take a tiny bit more of that Flirty Flamingo and just go over that midpoint just a little bit more. So then we'll just let this dry and we will add those. But I wanted to show you some different variations of that as well. So you can see I did this one, I stamped it in the Daffodil Delight, and then I added the Flirty Flamingo in the center. And then this one was another one that I did. You can see that's more with the Flirty Flamingo, and then a tad bit of the Melon Mambo, and then of course our Daffodil Delight. So you can see even with the stamped image, you can have 3 different versions there of our hibiscus. Totally beautiful, right? Okay, so let's put the rest of this together, and that's our card. So we've got our double split embossing, we've got our sentiment we stamped. Now let's add this to the inside. And then we'll add our pretty hibiscus and a couple of bling. And then I've got another card to show you at the end, something else you can do with this same technique. So we've got our inside base there. That way you can see it. There we go. We've got our inside base, so we just put that in. We added that, and now we're gonna grab some of our dimensionals here. We're gonna add them to the back of that pretty hibiscus that we sponged. So we'll just add a couple of those. Peel the backings off. And I added my other one to the bottom. This one we're gonna add to the top. That way you can see it just a bit different, right? And then for the bling on this one, we have so many different blings, and sometimes I think we forget about our basics. So these are the basic rhinestone jewels, or rhinestone basic jewels, and we're just gonna add these to that center area, that space, right? So we've got 2 there, and let's add 1 more to the side. You make me smile. Such a good card, right? You can send that for anything. So we've got our bling on there. Here's our first one that we did at the bottom. This one we put at the top. And then I have 1 more card to show you. I did the same thing, but instead of the vertical way, I did this one horizontal. So I just flipped my paper and I did the same where we embossed just the top, then we skipped an area, and then we embossed the bottom. And this one I stamped congratulations and added the same bling. That same congratulations is from the stamp set as well. And then if you notice, let's let the camera catch that, you can see that it's all sparkled. So the technique I showed on Technique Tuesday of turning any paper into glimmer sparkle paper, I spritzed this entire piece. So we almost have like a beautiful wedding or anniversary card, really any occasion that you want to congratulate someone for, right? But turning that into that beautiful glimmer paper. So you'll have to tell me in the comments, which is your favorite? Do you love the white? Do you love our pretty Melon Mambo sponged hibiscus? Do you love our Daffodil Delight or our Flirty Flamingo? Which is your favorite color of hibiscus, right? All kinds of fun, right? So anyway, well, happy Wednesday, happy card class day. And as always, I will be sending this out to all my email subscribers tomorrow with all of the supply list, the step-by-step instructions, and all of the measurements for today's card. So happy Wednesday. Thanks so much for watching, sharing with your friends, liking and subscribing, and I will see you guys soon. Bye-bye.